Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, philosophers, and welcome to episode 6 in our series on philosophy of science through the lens of medicine. Today, we're asking a disturbing question. Are your senses constantly lying to you? The answer is probably yes. But don't worry, they've been doing their best. They're like AI responses, kinda helpful, very convincing, but occasionally wildly misleading. So far, we've been focusing on scientific methodology and the demarcation problem. We've looked at induction, Francis Bacon's idols, and Karl Popper trying to falsify absolutely everything. But today, we shift gears. We're no longer asking how science works, we're asking what kind of world does science reveal? Here's the problem. The world science describes is often nothing like the world we experience. In the 17th century, René Descartes famously worried that everything we ever experience might just be a big long dream. Also that we might be being deceived by an evil demon. But science usually brackets that worry. In the lab, we assume that there's a real mind-independent world out there. Otherwise, experiments become awkward very quickly. The problem we face looks a little more like this. Even if the external world is real, what we experience looks nothing like the world the natural sciences describe. Take the table or desk in front of you. Knock on it. It feels solid, it has colour, it has texture. It seems like one continuous stable object. Very table-like. Excellent table performance. But the physicist Arthur Eddington pointed out that we actually have two tables. The first is the table of common sense, the solid, brown, wooden object you experience. The second is the scientific table, a vast field of mostly empty space containing tiny particles and forces. At the atomic level, your table isn't really the solid block it appears to be. It's mostly empty space. Its apparent solidity is not tiny bits of hard matter bumping into each other. It is largely electromagnetic repulsion between the electrons in your hand and the electrons in the table. So when you knock on the table, you're not really touching it in the common sense way. You're being politely rejected by its electrons. This is the appearance-reality distinction. The appearance is solid, coloured, continuous objects. The scientific reality is particles, forces, fields, and a disturbing amount of emptiness. During the scientific revolution, philosophers like John Locke described this using the distinction between primary and secondary qualities. Primary qualities, such as shape, size, motion, and mass, were thought to belong to the objects themselves. Secondary qualities, such as colour, taste, smell, and warmth, were thought to depend on how objects affect perceivers like us. So the red of a tomato, the sweetness of sugar, the warmth of sunlight, these aren't simply out there in the world exactly as we experience them. They're produced through the interaction between the world and our sensory systems. In other words, your brain isn't a passive camera, it's more like a very confident artist with limited information. This distinction isn't just a physics problem, it appears in medicine too. Imagine you have malaria, you're lying in bed, teeth chattering, wrapped in blankets, convinced that you're freezing. That's the appearance. Your experience is completely sincere. You really do feel cold. You may even be shivering violently, but the biological reality is almost the opposite. You have a fever. Your core body temperature is too high, not too low. So, what's going on here? Your immune system detects a pathogen and releases chemicals called pyrogens. These affect the hypothalamus in your brain, which acts like your body's thermostat. The hypothalamus raises your target temperature. So suppose your body now wants to reach 39 degrees Celsius. Suddenly, your normal 37 degrees feels too cold. So your body responds by shivering, constricting blood vessels near the skin, and making you desperately want blankets. The appearance is, I'm freezing. The reality is, my body is heating itself up to fight infection. So your conscious experience isn't a transparent window into what's happening inside you. It's a useful, but sometimes misleading biological signal. And this is one of the reasons medicine needs science. Patients report appearances like pain, nausea, coldness, dizziness, and fatigue. But clinicians and researchers must ask, well, what's the underlying reality that explains these appearances? So, science constantly asks us to look beyond these appearances. It tells us that solid tables are mostly empty space. It tells us that colours are not simple properties sitting on objects. It tells us that feeling cold during fever may actually mean your body is heating up. And it asks us to believe in things we can't directly observe. Atoms, electrons, electromagnetic fields, pyrogens, viruses, genes, and so much more. This sets up one of the biggest debates in modern philosophy of science: scientific realism versus scientific anti-realism. The scientific realist says our best scientific theories don't merely predict appearances, they describe the hidden structure of the world. Electrons, viruses, and genes are not mere useful fictions, they are real things. The anti-realist is much more cautious. They say, hang on a minute, the history of science is full of theories that worked well for a while but turned out to be false. Scientists once believed in phlogiston, the ether, and all sorts of now abandoned entities. So perhaps we should only believe that our theories are empirically successful, that they save the appearances without assuming they reveal the world as it really is. That's the debate we're heading into. In the next episode, we're going to look at scientific realism, the view that the success of science would be almost miraculous unless our theories were at least approximately true. And after that, we'll turn to scientific anti-realism, the view that science may be extraordinarily useful without giving us direct access to reality itself. So until then, remember, your table is mostly empty space, your senses are giving you the edited highlights, and if you feel freezing during a fever, your body may actually be running the biological equivalent of a furnace. Thank you for watching, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.